you know, they do it all the time. The contractor that does Mission Heights, they turn on the irrigation every time they're there. They don't always fix anything, but they turn it on.
Are there any accommodations made for the trees that are in front of the deli? Those trees need to be trimmed. It's a hazard. They are hazards.
In front of the deli.
Yeah, there's two trees in front of the deli on 14th and Mission Street.
Yeah, that's on him.
So that was part
So
of
there's no
the
accommodations
development.
made for those. That's not in the landscaping plan.
It's right in front of the building
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right too.
on 14th.
Yeah, trucks come through, the fire engines come through. We can't see to the north for the most part. They need to be bucked up. So I don't know if there's anything we could do to encourage him to do that. But I've had complaints, numerous complaints about that.
I can talk to the tree trimmer who sits there every day.
Tell him to do something.
So they
Don't you guys have chainsaw training?
I could cut that thing real nice.
So when that was put in, that was put in at a requirement of the county that property owner maintain.
He's been there.
So the property
Okay,
owner
so
that
you
was
have
there
to define
before.
maintain.
Yeah, the property owner that was there before did a better job. The one that's there now, although they've trimmed it a couple times for us, they seem to not really be interested in doing
Yeah, I
it.
would think especially now that harvest is coming.
So how
trucks
trucks
are gonna be coming
enforcement on
through.
that? Or are we gonna take that over too?
I don't know if we can take it over because that's watered through their meter.
Well, we don't take the watering over, but we could have the tree trimmer go over there.
What's your responsibility to stop when you start messing with it?
Well, that's true. Okay, so is there a public comment?
There's cricket.
Don't kill it, it's bad luck.
They're looking.
I have a couple of questions, and I don't have it on my device tonight for some strange reason, but as well as I can remember, just like the deli, my understanding was new development on the east side would be responsible for their own landscaping as well. I think it's important to make sure, whatever you decide, or whoever, that you're very specific about who, where, what you will do in this agreement, so that every new thing on anywhere on Mission Street doesn't say, hey, you're supposed to do ours because you did all the others, because that could be never ending. And I think that it's important that you have that part of the agreement of what you will do and what you will not do. And somehow code enforcement or somebody from county ought to be the ones enforcing that. Which is again pushing the county to do what they should be doing. And I think I also had a question about you mentioned the north gateway, you didn't mention the south. I'm assuming you included them both as that one.
Yeah, they're together. I may have said the north one, but I meant the gateway signs.
Mm-hmm. And you might even want to think about the east side in a whole different way, because right now the west side is developed, but there's nothing on the east side. Do you want to have to do the whole thing from beginning to end and pay for that? That's going to be a really important consideration, because lighting, if they're going to take this on, they have to be very clear and careful about what they're taking on, because otherwise lighting suffers in the end. Not that I don't think all of this is a good idea, I just think it's an important consideration. The maintenance budget is another one that I think is important to look at. It's one thing to be able to pay the water and have weeds cleared and so forth, but what other possibilities of maintenance problems might come up, including the trees trimming, but there might be other things. And to me, it's really important for that clarity of what you're responsible for. Father Reginald Park is another example. There are a lot of little structures down there, and I know the Native Sons have a monument that's supposed to go in down there. It hasn't been placed yet, but that was over a year ago that they dedicated it. so those kinds of things are gonna become very important, just liability and, you know, contractual agreements with the county. There's something else here. Oh, I noticed in your report that the county is doing some sidewalk replacement between 11th and 14th.
They're going to be.
They're going to do what replacement?
Sidewalk. The whole strip, they're going to replace sidewalks or just parts?
Just parts, just the parts that are being
Just the
left.
bad parts near the trees.
Some trying to do something.
So that was part of the urgency to get this, some sort of resolution from the board, so we could move forward and we can remove the concrete that's needed to do the repairs, and hopefully that would line up with what they're removing and we don't have to pay for it.
And when are they moving forward? That was the question last month.
They're waiting on us.
And we're not done.
Okay, okay. So anyway, that's just, my comments. I really, appreciate Kelly's time and work on trying to get this together and, help to make things better for the community, but at the same time, we have to, look at, yes, thank you.
I would like to mention that, get the plans out for the east side that we did years ago. I don't remember the east side having as many trees as the west. I don't remember that on the plans.
I would think that when
I'll be honest with you, I don't think-
Gone.
And that was the
Their
county.
project's been sold.
Yeah.
Is there any other public comment?
That's it.
Okay. So, I have to agree, I don't think we should commit to the east side whatsoever. I think it's good to know that should the day come, if the need were to arise for us to get involved, that it's good to know that we know ahead of time what we might and might not be able to do. But, I don't think we should, at this point in time, I don't think we should make any allowances for it whatsoever.
Well, my recommendation last time and what I feel we should move forward with is what's existing.
Right.
The east side may never come.
Right.
And that was the discussion last month, is we need to narrow the scope and narrow what the district's actually taking, so that, like this has been said, I mean, we don't end up with everybody and their brother coming in,
Right.
well, you need to take care of my front yard,
Plus,
or you need to take care of from my business, or whatever.
plus, it could, when it develops, it will more likely be that the businesses will be, obligated to maintain what's in front of their business.
So that's possible.
That remains to be seen, and we've seen what goes on with that at the Valley. Yes.
I was gonna suggest, because I understand that the east side is a sticking point, that we could make a condition that if we were to take on the east side in the future, that the property or set of the boundaries of the community facilities district, that means that if they want us to maintain it, they have to pay specifically for us to maintain it.
That's a good idea.
Well, we can do that.
Because I think that if we set those things, then when we have certain areas that someone says, hey, we wanna do it, okay, but you're gonna pay us this much. And so it doesn't take out of our lighting budget or anything else. And that can be a good way to finance and deal with future projects across the community if the problem does come up. I know that they use, community facility districts and other agencies effectively.
Do we know the cost of the plants?
Not yet.
Actually, the plants can be purchased through Native Sons out of Rio Grande. You can have a wholesale account with them, and their prices tend to be very reasonable,
Okay.
which is why we went to them.
All right.
They're quite good.
I'd still like to see a dollar amount for, you have a
We can do
plant,
that.
We
you have a
can-
planting plan, you know how many of each you need.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
get
do that.
Okay, so I'd like to see planting costs, I'd like to see, I would see.
We'll get them for the 1 gallon and the 5 gallon.
Okay. I'd like to see a scope of the work to be sent out.
Yeah. So,
To include the tree trimming.
so what I would like is a consensus from the board that we are gonna move forward with this, because this is gonna take
Yeah.
Yes,
considerably more of my time, and I don't wanna be spending.
yes, I think.
I think we can see now that it's possible for us to afford it, yeah. Just, I don't wanna commit the district districts to something that's gonna grow out of control.
Understandable, I just wanna make sure that the
And-
direction that you're asking me to go is the direction that the whole board wants to go, because this does take time, it does take my time, which does cost the district money.
And I'd also like to see a height limit of 24 inches in the bulb outs at the intersections. Because 36 inches is like here, and there's a lot of compact cars out there that still puts your eye level below that. So if we could put that in there.
And then, what about the idea, so we maintain this in a very specific manner, the community facilities district, for like the east side.
I think that's a great idea.
So maybe we can look, if, as we move forward, have that mechanism for other.
Well, what we can do at this point is, because we're not clear on what's going on there, what we can do is we can bring back a resolution clearly identifying the pieces that we're gonna be taking care of,
Okay.
and stating in there that essentially any additional spaces would have to be brought back and approved separately.
And did you actually contact anybody for these estimates on the maintenance?
Yeah, just for the phone, I didn't have anybody come out.
Okay.
So we have to provide them the scope so you can.
Yeah.
So once we have the scope, then we can put it out there.
Before we commit,
Mhm.
I wanna see what the reaction is to the scope. So yes, we're moving forward.
Formal.
Yes.
Cool.
So-
And we have 10 months left.
Oh, good. I'll need you to come out on your Harley and we'll measure where you're at.
My Prius.
Oh,
Your
gosh.
Prius is good, that's good, I'll work with you.
I
So,
can see over everything on Harley.
Yeah, Kelly, can you word it so they can take consensus? I want. Word it.
Words.
you didn't write all that down?
I am wording, but I want it said so I can get consensus.
So, let's see.
You want me to repeat what I'm asking for?
I know what you want.
So, essentially what I'm asking for is a consensus by the board that we are, that you are all interested in moving forward in assuming the responsibility for landscaping, assuming that the costs are not exorbitant.
I'm interested in getting more information
I got dollar amount for plants, scope
to
of work.
decide whether or not we can move forward.
John, am I
Is
correct?
that fair to say?
I think he's in consensus that we are all interested in moving forward.
Right?
Yeah.
That's basically what we're looking for,
Based
so that
on-
I can use my time to
Yes.
work on this.
But it's based on things that you have thrown out to us that we don't know right now if they're accurate.
I understand.
Completely accurate. And we're still missing an irrigation plan
And
and,
that should be done.
Cost of
hopefully
plans.
for next month.
and whether or not you can find a contractor to even come out and look at it.
But it's, if I understand, it's to just move forward here for the landscaping, and then you're gonna have all the other pieces for the final report and approval. Is that right?
Right, what I'm looking for essentially is a consensus by the board that you are all willing to move forward with this, and barring a major snafu, that you are willing to take over the landscaping. It's not binding you to taking over landscaping, it's just that you wanna move in that direction, so
So
that I'm
directing
not.
staff to move forward.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have consensus of the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
So, I'm gonna bring this back next month, because I'm persistent like that.
No, that's good.
Grab me back.
So, next month,
Take your finger on my mouth.
we will have hopefully a planting cost, or planting plan, irrigation plan, a planting cost, an irrigation cost, and you guys want to see a scope, including tree trimming, which should include anyway, and bids for that scope. And are you okay with me getting bids on that scope before you see the scope? Or do you wanna see the scope and then in October, see the bids? Because obviously you only need once a month, so.
I'd like to see the bids.
You wanna see bids.
I think
Yeah.
this is.
So
So
the
develop
scope,
scope.
the
But
scope would
then what if we
include.
don't like the scope?
Then we
Change
need
the
to
We're
do
gonna
bids.
get the scope and the bids at the same time.
Right, but what if we don't?
You have to do it again.
And we'll just,
Then we'll have to do it again.
Chances are better that we'll get the scope and the bids and the like. If we have to see the scope, it's gonna be 2 months before we see bids.
And then you don't like it. And then, so, okay, so I can bring the scope and the bids back.
Yeah, and the scope, okay, so what I'm getting at is the scope should include tree trimming and irrigation repair, maintenance of the irrigation system.
Yeah, it should include at least at a minimum,
Maintaining the height
maintenance.
restrictions.
And
And when the county does the concrete work, are we gonna get some walkways through in key points and key?
Well, some of this repair
locations?
work would include putting that in. I could probably convince them to put some of them in for us.
The post office really needs to have
Yeah.
less
Not-
plantings.
That's
in
not the
front
only
of it.
place, but yeah. So,
Specifically in relation to the scope, remember what we discussed before?
pardon me?
Specifically in relation to the scope, remember what we talked about before? We're not gonna say we want you to visit every month.
Yeah, it's
I
general,
want my
this is what I
grass
want it
2
to be.
inches tall.
Right.
You come out and however.
Exactly.
That has to be.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not
Um,
more expensive.
Then other than the 24-inch max height on the bulb outs, is there anything else specifically that anybody wants? We'll make sure that Ashley's grass is 2 inches tall, 2 inches tall.
AstroTurf, will grow.
So, nothing else specifically?
It's not for right now.
Okay. Then we will bring that back, next month.
Discuss approval resolution 2019-30 approving amendments to the memorandum of understanding between the San Miguel CSD and SDRMA.
So this is Tamara, she handles it, I'll let her.
So SDRMA, we do a lot of different things with them, but mostly this is, to do with our health benefits, dental and vision for San Miguel employees. So we received a letter on August 1st, 2019, informing the San Miguel CSD, SDRMA Board of Directors had approved amendments to their memorandum of understanding. They've never done that before. This is the first time they've ever made any changes. So SDRMA Board approved the amendments on the 26th to align the MOU with IRS guidelines, Affordable Care Act guidelines, and CS